Good evening, Patriots. So we're doing this again. We're going directly to Facebook, and we are live right now. Now, couple things going on in the media today. One, right, is Donald Trump's tax returns. Oh my God. The Donald Trump's tax returns have been subpoenaed by Congress and released by Congress, which has caused major concerns. Guys, this is the Ryan Samuel Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, okay? If you're on your phone and the comments are here, just swipe right over this way and subscribe. It's 99 cents a month. It goes directly back into making these videos so that we can get the information out there. As always, leave your comments down below, and I will answer any questions that you have. So this is just the biggest witch hunt in American history, and it's abhorrent. We have real problems going on that Congress needs to and should be looking into. Number one, the Twitter files. I feel like I just repeat this every night. I feel like this is all I do is I sit here and I scream about the Twitter files, and it just continues to go by the wayside. And that nothing ever happens. Nothing ever comes of it. The mainstream media won't even talk about it. So, but the one thing that they will talk about is Donald Trump's tax returns and his referral for criminal charges. There's nothing there. The DOJ they're going to try their best, but even if they do bring up charges, which I do not anticipate that they will, there's nothing there to stand on whatsoever. So I'm going to go over and look at the news and see the New York Times. Trump's taxes, red flags, big losses, and a windfall from his father. God, Donald Trump is evil. The presidency of Donald J. Trump, a congressional report reveals, was marked by some of the same questionable tax maneuvers that had characterized his business career. No shit. You mean to tell me a billion-dollar businessman of any side of politics is not taking advantage of tax benefits and tax breaks? Duh. That's what they all do. That's why the tax code is written that way, to provide jobs. Now, agree with it, don't agree with it. That's completely up to your individual opinion on this. However, the problem is that it's all legal. It's all legal. He has accountants that get paid millions of dollars to find these loopholes and use them. He doesn't even look at his taxes. I guarantee it. They just walk up and say, I did your taxes. He goes, is everything right? Yes. Okay, sign right here. All right, I'm moving on. I don't have time for this crap. I own, billions and billions of dollars in property and investments and all this crap I have to manhandle. A guy like this that runs the Trump organization has people for that. Has well-trained professional people for that. That's not going to get him caught up in any tomfoolery. So it's frustrating to see. What a waste of time and effort. We're going to get back to this article. Looks like we got some comments. I'm going to scroll up. Karen, you have truly nailed the hideous problem facing our nation. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. And it's so obvious. It's so obvious and to anybody if you just look at it, right? Ingrid, hey, welcome back. Good to see you. Dana, tax returns, big nothing burger with none of the trimmings. Yes, very true. You get Rand Paul's Christmas story? I don't think that I have. Let's hear about Rev Al's first. Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, this is what these guys do. They have people that we can't afford to do their taxes. And the people that we can't afford to do our taxes know the tax code in and out. That's why it costs so much money to have these pros doing it. You're not going to get this at H&R Block. You got somebody there that's making $30,000 a year who says, hey, here's a software, fill in the blanks, and do data entry. It does it all for them. But when you start getting lawyers involved who look up tax law and case law and get all of this stuff intertwined and built and presented to maximize tax benefits, I don't want to pay taxes. If I made millions and millions of dollars, I would 100% hire the best tax person on earth so that I didn't have to pay any taxes. The more they saved me, the more I would pay them. I mean, if I have to spend $1 million on a tax attorney to stop the government from taking $50 million of my money, it's a no-brainer. I'll give the guy $10 million. It's just like, if it makes dollars, it makes sense, right? All right, let's see what else. Definitely a waste of time and money, John, 100%. And he's not the only one doing it. That's the thing. But they're hitting him with spears from left and right. Oh, arrow here, arrow there. We're going to get them somehow, some way. All they're doing is producing talking points. They're producing talking points that they can use in the upcoming election, in the run for the presidency. That's exactly what they're doing. So it's just, what a waste of time. What a waste of money. You're trying to find charges on him just so you could use it against him when he runs, which tells you just how politically and in depth the deep state is, right? And this is not a conspiracy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But the people who have been in government their entire life have grown roots there. They've grown connections. So they use their people at the FBI to silence opposition. They use their friends that have been there forever. That's why I'm a huge advocate for term limits for any national branch. Congress, Senate, you name it. Do your time and get out. 8 years. That's what you got. And then you wouldn't have these problems. And grassroots candidates would be able to run, win, do their time, and come home. You wouldn't have this deep state. But that's why they won't rule against that. That's why they won't vote against that. Because now we're in a situation where the people who are going to vote for term limits are the ones who don't want term limits. So why would they ever bring it up and address it? Let's get back to this article. December 21st, 2022. Donald J. Trump's tax returns. At first glance, the income tax data released this week by a House committee seems to show a turnaround in 2018 for former President Donald J. Trump. After a decade in which he declared no taxable income, smart guy, his 2018 tax return reported taxable income for more than $24 million. He paid nearly $1 million in federal income taxes. In fact, his year in the black appears to have resulted largely from the final windfall of the vast inheritance that financed much of his business career, and more than $14 million in gains from the sale of his father's 1970s investment in Brooklyn housing development of Starrett City. But precedent soon reasserted, but precedent soon, now I'm all messed up. But precedent soon reasserted itself because of business losses. He paid no income tax in 2020. His last year in the White House. Okay, so he paid no tax in 2020. Who cares? He also donated his entire presidential salary to a different charity every month. So what, $400,000 a year he's donated? You think that didn't go on his tax return as a deduction? And that didn't benefit him? Of course it did. Jesus. Jeez Louise. That year, after obtaining more than 2 decades of Mr. Trump's tax returns, New York Times traced the boom and bust arcs and had marked his financial history. Dubious tax avoidance, huge losses, and a life buttressed by an inherited fortune. It wasn't a fortune. It wasn't billions of dollars. He made it billions of dollars. Shows how a pattern extended through his years in Washington. The new material, obtained by the House Ways and Means Committee, after a year-long legal battle, raised a multitude of questions about the methods Mr. Trump had employed while president to lower his income taxes. Of course. A mere lock. Of course. I don't understand. I own businesses. This right here is a business. This is an LLC. When I show a loss on a tax return, I don't pay taxes. I don't understand. So here's what they're doing. So now he is showing a loss on his tax returns. He's lying. This is where this is going. He's lying on his tax returns. He's showing a loss when there isn't a loss. That's tax evasion. Let's string him up. Let's go after him. Let's get him. And then you have the other side saying, well, he's a failed businessman. He's an idiot. He's gone bankrupt. He's done this. So which one is it? Is he the incompetent businessman, or is he a genius that avoids taxes? You can't have both, right? Let me check out. I'm going to go back and see if there's any comments. Jerry Rogers, the Democrats are moronic. Yeah, dude, 100%. Ingrid, evil we've never seen before. Yes, all politicians have corruption, but this whole nother level. I think what we're seeing, Ingrid, is I think that it's been there, and I think it's been there for a long time. I think that Donald Trump, the way they're treating Donald Trump is that we're seeing it because they don't want him in power anymore, because when he was in power, he did things a little bit differently. You know, like him or hate him, you know, number one, he wasn't beholden to any special interest groups because Donald Trump got his money from his followers, like he did with the NFT cards. He got his money from his followers. He doesn't get donations from big oil companies. He doesn't get donations from big tech, obviously. So that proposes that's a break in the system. So then when he was in office, he was only beholden to his views and the people who voted for him, right? Which made him a threat to the establishment. Let's go, Brandon. Hello, Trump. Yeah, I like that. Al, you should do a live one about the VA. We are veterans suffering with the case, and it's really sad. Keep on going and spread the word. Al, I want you to message me. I am a veteran, and I have dealt with the VA from service-connected injuries for 15 years. I have a very good person that can help you out, Al. Inbox me right now, and I will get you this person's number, and he will help you out with your claim. Okay? All right, let's see what else we got. Let's go back to the New York Times. One involved transactions with his children. According to the tax data, Mr. Trump annually received tens of thousands of dollars in interest income from 3 of his grown children. Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. Money that stemmed from what his returns described as personal loans to them. The committee questioned whether the loans actually were disguised gifts to evade the gift taxes and allow the children to write off interest payments to their father. Yeah, how has America come from, we're going to frickin' dress up like Native Americans, jump in the Boston Harbor, dump all the tea, throw it all over the place, go to war because you're taxing us way too much, to, oh my God, this American citizen, instead of gifting his children the money, he told people it was a loan and then collected interest on the loan so that it was a gift without... How did Samuel Adams would be rolling in his grave? Paul Revere would be frickin' beside himself, and I'm pretty sure Thomas Jefferson would just commit suicide. I don't think that this is what we had planned, right? Now, discretion. I said the S word. If you or anybody you know are having trouble, I have to do this for Facebook. If you or anybody you know are having trouble, depression, or deep thoughts, please seek help. Call 911. Inbox me. I can help you, especially if you're a veteran. Seek help and don't do that, because that is not something I promote at all or ask for. Facebook. Thank you. So the We we are taxed on every aspect of our life. We are you're taxed on your income from the federal government, which is unconstitutional, by the way. Then we are taxed on our income from the state, depending on what state that you live in. Then we are taxed on anything you buy. Anything you buy, you're taxed. Then you're taxed on your property. So even if you pay off your home, you never truly own your property, because if you don't pay your taxes and you get behind, they can steal your home. So taxes are completely out of control. So I don't care. That's just me with Donald Trump. I don't care, dude. If you can do it, good for you. Do it, man. Do it. The government collects enough taxes and wastes enough money. If you have people giving you insight and advice to help you get around taxes, I mean, that's why you have tax attorneys. That's why you have CPAs. That's what they're there for. They're there to help you put more money in your pocket when you own a business, especially a billion-dollar corporation. It's just madness. Waste of time. Waste of time. The congressional report said the IRS explored whether Mr. Trump correctly deducted the $21 million he paid to settle a series of fraud claims against the now defunct Trump University. It was not clear, the report said, whether Mr. Trump had received any insurance proceeds that offset some proportion of the settlement. The outcome of that review was not known. The committee also questioned whether Mr. Trump had charged expenses from his personal life and hobbies as business expenses, mentioning travel on his aircraft in particular. The Times 2020 investigation found that he had frequently written off questionable expenses, including more than $70,000 paid to style his hair during his years on The Apprentice. Yeah, we heard about that years ago, the $70,000 hair thing. I mean, whatever. Whatever. This is America today. Have more American people are upset that somebody else didn't pay their taxes, or that we don't pay the tax rich enough, than they're upset that they themselves pay 30 to 40 to 50% in taxes every day. They don't care about that. Tax the rich. Yeah, what happened with that? You yelled out, let's tax the rich, right? Tax the rich. The rich don't pay any in taxes. Well, that's not true. They do, because you're also not factoring in the business that they own and the amount of payroll taxes that they pay, and just how much money they give to the government through the business, right? Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about that all of the time. So anyway, let's get back on track. April. Oh, April's a big fan. How are you, April? He had 4 years to change the tax laws. What was he really doing for 4 years but lying and making shit appear normal? I mean, that's your opinion. I mean, I don't think he changed the tax laws. I could be wrong. I don't think that he changed the tax laws, April. I think the tax laws are in place, and I think that loopholes are there for a reason that are available to every American, right? Anybody can open up an LLC. You go to LegalZoom, it costs you $300. You open up an LLC, Becky's Knitting. I invested $20,000 into this year, and I've lost $22,000. Well, guess what? We're going to write that off in your taxes, and we're going to help boost your business. I mean, that's how it is. That's why it's set up that way. They want you to create businesses. They want your businesses to grow so you create jobs. And the government wants you to create jobs, because when you create jobs, then you create employees who create most of the taxes. So the problem is that people always want to tax the rich, tax the rich. How about, whoa, stop taxing me so much. I don't care what you tax anybody else. But me paying 35% or 30% of my income to taxes, that doesn't make any sense. And then you want to tax everything else. You want to tax gas. You want to tax cigarettes, alcohol. Like, no matter what you want, it's taxed. You got your penny in everything. You got your hands in every penny. I mean, but during the American Revolution, there was this little thing called the Townshend Acts, right? And the Stamp Act that said that any piece of paper had to have the king's image on it. It had to be stamped and it had to be taxed. Any legal document, newspaper, anything. So this was a Porsche because they were paying all these freaking taxes. Then the Townshend Acts came in later, right? Which to enforce it, which means that the police could write their own search warrants. Sound familiar? Edward Snowden. Twitter. The police could write their own search warrants and enter the houses, which is why we don't have quartering of troops, right? They would help themselves to the paper, and then they would help themselves to the house, and they would take all the furniture. That's why we don't have quartering of troops. So the problem is not that we're not taxing the rich. The problem is you're overtaxing the majority of the population. And you're overtaxing because you have too many freaking programs, too many federal agencies that don't do crap. At the ATF, I don't know what the hell they do. Alcohol, tobacco, firearms, all legal, by the way. It's the only federal agency dedicated, only federal law enforcement agency dedicated to three things that are legal: alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. And then you have the FBI, then you have the DEA, you have the Department of Homeland Security, you have the TSA, you have all this crap that you're paying for. And then on top of that, you got the military, and then the National Park Service. And it's just so much stuff that you're paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year out of your own personal check. And the only thing people will scream is tax the rich. Stop taxing me. Stop taxing me 30 to 40%. That needs to be the message. You went on this whole thing, Joe Biden's going to tax the rich. He's going to go, no, we're going to raise your taxes, not if you don't make more than $400,000 a year. And then what happened? He got in office, and we're going to tax Venmo payments. Whoa. Anything over $600 on a Venmo or a Cash App, you got to pay Uncle Sam. Does that sound like taxing the rich? Or does that sound like you got frickin' duped? They don't care about you, bro. You need to make it about you, not about the rich, not about anybody else. All right. And Ingrid has responded to April, so I'm going to sit here with some popcorn. Jerry, I'm a Vietnam vet. Welcome home, my brother. I can't believe how disgusting the Democrats are. I hoped I was fighting for my country, but found out it was only moneymaker for corporations and Democrats. I didn't fight for this. Very wrong and disgusting. The Dems are unleashed now, waiting to see what the Republicans are next year. I hope they grow some balls. Yeah, man, me too. But it's... Well, thank you for what you did in Vietnam. And, I'm a veteran, but I'm not a Vietnam veteran. And you guys are a totally different class. When I was in the Marine Corps and we came home, I was an infantryman. So when we came home, we had parades and we were welcomed. You guys did not have that. So thank you for everything that you've done for this country. And regardless of what happened when all the truth came out in the end, you did what your country asked of you. So thank you for that. Let's see if Ingrid and Dawn are going to go at it. April, Dawn. April, I'm interested in all the lies you accuse him of. No links you accuse him. Please let me know. And we know why the wall wasn't built. Moreover, if you call out lies, how about Joe's? Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Joe lied. Politicians lie. That's what they do. Right? That's exactly what politicians do. They lie. And there's only one reason they say or do anything, and that is to get reelected. So tell them, if you want to be reelected, then you need to work on lowering my taxes. That's it. Is there anything else to really fight for other than individual rights? Other than, stopping them for having your Congress stop the federal government from pressuring and going after social media websites to take your crap down. I mean, that's it. That's all I want. I want my taxes freaking basically gone. I don't want to pay property taxes. I don't want you to tax my property. I want to own my property. I'll never own my property if you tax it. And I want to be able to do as I wish. I want the right to be left alone. That's what I want. I want the right to be left alone. And that's all I have to say about that. Let me scroll down. We're always brothers in arms. Thank you, brother. Bring in the light and watch the cockroaches scatter. Yes, Jerry. Thank you. All right. So that's the big popcorn fart that the New York Times dropped about his tax returns. This is not alcohol, by the way, just so you know. This is ginger beer, alcohol free. It's delicious. I love it. It's usually what I have in my mug, but my mug is currently in the dishwasher. So we have a long road ahead of us for 2 years. Trump is the only one to announce to run for president. He did announce super early, and maybe he announced because he knew all this trouble was coming. So he wanted to get in the race and then turn around and say, hey, they're just trying to stop me to run for president, because they knew he was going to run. He had to wait to after the primaries in order to do that because of the election laws. So we're going to see if Donald Trump makes it 2 years. We're going to see if he becomes the primary candidate. You know, it's going to be tough for him. He made a lot of enemies. You know, a lot of powerful Republicans he ticked off in the last campaign, and they don't want him to be the front runner. So I would anticipate that Ron DeSantis is going to run. I would love to see Ron DeSantis run. I'm a huge fan of Ron DeSantis. I live in Florida. I've reaped many a benefit from Ron DeSantis. One of those is I don't pay a state income tax. Pretty sweet, right? For those of you, and I was born and raised in New York, where I was paying all these federal income taxes, then almost the same amount in state taxes was coming out of my check. So it was a double whammy. Now I'm in Florida paying zero income tax. It's a good thing. Now, obviously, that's been like that forever before DeSantis, but, you know, he's not trying to add anything or tax anybody to death, and Florida's doing just fine. So, see what else. So, Zelensky visited Joe Biden today. That's interesting. He probably needs another loan. He came to America. The United States is obviously supporting and helping Ukraine fight Russia. Russia still hasn't taken it over, but I mean, I don't know. It's going to happen eventually, right? Unless we put boots on the ground. But they are supplying them with a substantial amount of money. I mean, they've spent more money in Ukraine than they did in Afghanistan, and that's a horrible thing. Ingrid, I'm a bet Pence throws his hat in. Well, I wouldn't if I were Mike Pence. I would not. He may, he might in the beginning. I don't think he'll get any leverage. He's always going to be associated with Donald Trump, although he did go against Trump in the end, and they had a fallout over the election. And, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I mean, he might, but I would. It's gonna be Ron. It's got to be Ron DeSantis. I'm sorry. It's got to be. It's got to be. That's the only conservative voice that's going to be able to bring the party back. But the only issue is that Ron DeSantis and Trump are going to split the party. So if they run together, the Republicans might actually have a chance. Might actually have a chance. So I'm just going to keep perusing the news here. Let's go to NBC. Let's see what NBC has. Zelensky says Ukraine is alive and kicking as he presses Congress for continued support. Give me more money. Oh, God. Why are we paying for him, man? It's not our business. Why are we there? Why are we there? I wonder if it has anything to do with Hunter's laptop and his dealings with Ukraine before the war started. I'm curious as to if Russia would have even done it if Trump was in office. I mean, that's a good question. We'll never know the answer to that. I mean, all of it is just speculative at this point, right? But so Zelensky's here. I think he's still here tonight. He gave an address to Congress. Ooh, January 6th, all over the front page, NBC News. Oh my God, did they find something new? Informant warned FBI weeks before January 6th that the far right saw Trump tweet as a call to arms. Give me a break. Just so you know, I clicked off of that screen and back to the Facebook screen because I just got super upset. All right, I think we got a few more comments. Let me see here. Pence is just another rhino, Wayne says. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Jerry, Trump is trying to give us hope. A lot of Republicans are just as bad as Democrats. Dude, you said it, man. You said it. I mean, there was a time, man, I think Ronald Reagan was the last great conservative president, right? He's the last one to really have and push and talk about individual freedom and real, true conservative ideology, right? We wanted to protect our nation. We had a buildup of the military. We promoted individual rights. He made silver and gold for you to purchase from the Federal Reserve before it was illegal. So he did a lot of tremendously great things, you know, Ronald Reagan did. And I think that that's the last real, true conservative president that we had. Now, we had Herbert Walker Bush, right? And then we had good old George, G.W. W. Now, I like George. I served under George in the Marine Corps. And then I served under Barack Obama in the Marine Corps. And I will tell you, I definitely enjoyed George way more than Barack Obama. But, I mean, George Bush has got a pretty big scar on his legacy with Iraq, in terms of Iraq and WMDs and anthrax. And it was just... It was just a poor reaction to a massive tragedy that never should have occurred. But you know, that's neither here nor there. But but Bush grew the federal government, right? He did the Patriot Act, which is the most unpatriotic thing you could frickin' do. And that's when we had wiretapping from the NSA. They were listening to your phone calls without a warrant. They were reading your text messages. They were crawling over your emails for keywords to where if you text somebody something like as a joke, they would flag you, and then they would look at you, and they could turn on your microphone and listen to your conversations and turn on your camera, even if your phone was off. This stuff is not conspiracy. I'm not making it up. This literally happened. This is a huge scandal that Edward Snowden broke. Then now he's hiding in Russia because they want to prosecute him. They want to prosecute the guy who came out and said the federal government is tapping everybody's phone. This is a flagrant violation of your Fourth Amendment right. This is a violation of the Constitution. There's no excuse for it. There's no reason to be doing this. You cannot do this. The guy should be awarded a frickin' medal. He should be awarded a medal, and he should run for Congress or run for president. That's what we need. But so Bush did a lot of big government things, and we haven't had a conservative voice for limited government since Ronald Reagan, right? I mean, the Libertarian Party is more about individual freedom and limited government than the conservatives are. And that's not how it's supposed to be. The conservatives are supposed to be all about limited government. But I digress. Patrick, most of this is the Republicans' fault. They don't fight for whatever reason. I hear that a lot, and they don't get their hands dirty. So I think that they fight, but the Republicans don't get their hands dirty. Patrick, Snowden is a hero. 100%. 100% that Edward Snowden is a hero, should be freed. We should have a giant parade for that guy, and it should come out and say that this is how it's supposed to be done. He's a whistleblower. But they want to try him and kill him for treason. That's real. That's why he's hiding in Russia, because they want to kill this guy for telling you they're spying on you. You, not international terrorists, not foreign governments, you, a citizen, protected. They could turn your webcam on. They could turn this microphone on. This is all real. I know it sounds like if I would have told you this before you knew it happened or before the evidence was out, you would have called me a psychopath. But it was all true. It's all true. They literally did it. And he blows it out, and the guy's hiding in Russia. He's hiding in Russia. He's doing interviews via camera and microphone, and he's doing it in like a highly secured bunker that he built where they can't tap into it and find out where he is. He doesn't use anything wireless. It's all wired. He uses fake IP addresses. The guy's a wizard. I mean, he should be freaking hailed a hero. I'm sorry. So, all right, let me get back to NBC News. Let me click on this. Informant told FBI informant. I bet you I'm about to read this article and it's a confidential informant. They just made this shit up. Informant warned FBI weeks before January 6th that the far right saw a Trump tweet as a call to arms. First of all, I still don't know who the far right are and who the far right they're referring to. I don't understand it. I will never understand it. Who is the far right? Who is it? Because in my mind, a far right person does not want higher taxes. They don't want social programs. They want individual freedom, and they want to be left alone. They want to be able to worship their God, whoever their God is, or not worship their God if they don't have a God. That, to me, that's the far right, right? But to society, the far right are Nazis, even though they're not. The Nazis are on the left. And it's funny because I watch them scream, oh yeah, these alt-right people, they're Nazis, they're Nazis. Watch. So Nick Fuentes is this idiot who is a Nazi, is an anti-Semitic, just garbage person who talks about his hatred all the time. He's got his own individual podcast. He's a white nationalist, and he's a self-proclaimed, you guessed it, socialist. He talks about how he's a socialist. His followers wear shirts that say, I am a socialist. And these are the people they're saying that are on the far right. They're not. They're on the left. They're idiots. All right. Washington, D.C. on December 19th, 2020, the day when President Donald Trump sent a tweet summoning his supporters to a wild protest in the nation's capital on January 6th, one of the FBI's own confidential sources, I knew it! I told you! Confidential sources! Oh, Jesus. I'm going to write an article tonight. I got a blog. I'm sure you guys have seen it at ryanfsamuels.com. And I'm going to write one. And I'm going to say, I have a confidential source right now inside the Biden administration. Who the hell's ever going to know if I'm telling the truth or not? BS. That is a load of crap. One of the FBI's own confidential sources warned the Bureau that the far right considers Trump message a call to arms. According to an email reviewed by NBC News, that tip to the FBI from a source who is still used by the Bureau and spoke on the condition of anonymity warned there was a big threat of violence on January 6th. It was among hundreds of pages of reports viewed by NBC News that this source sent to the FBI in the weeks before the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol. The email, which has not been previously reported, warned that the Trump tweet was gaining hold on social media. Oh my God. Trump tweeted what people on the right were considering a call to arms in D.C. on January 6th. The confidential source wrote on the afternoon of December 19th, the day of Trump's 1:42 a.m. will be wild tweet. The information the source sent to the Bureau in the weeks before the attack pulled from extremist chatter on a variety of social media forums, including discussion of civil war, talk of hanging traitors, and calls for militias to take up arms. It highlighted messages like, war is inevitable, hell is going to break loose. Hell is going to break loose. That's your chatter. Okay, so it highlighted measures like war is inevitable. Okay, that's a little concerning. Hell is going to break loose. I got family coming over here on Christmas. And you know what I said to my wife? Hell is going to break loose. It's chatter. The FBI has been warned about what's going to happen at Ryan Samuel's house on Christmas. Locked and loaded. I say that all the time. That just means ready. It's a military term. You ready to go? Locked and loaded. I'm ready to go. Just means ready to go. My powder is dry, my guns are clean, and I'm not afraid of death, and I'll gladly take lives for the preservation of our country. So here is a few examples of chatter from millions and millions and millions of millions and millions of people. They have narrowed down into this story to show idiots that Donald Trump incited a riot and plotted an insurrection with a coded tweet. That's what you have. It included information on a Boogaloo extremist who is prepared to die in D.C. We all must join, link forces, and be ready to leave our lives behind. That extremist wrote in a message relayed to the Bureau by the confidential source, we must pool resources and fight like there's no tomorrow. The Constitution still lives, and we must preserve it. Blood is the price of freedom. The additional information reviewed by NBC News adds to the growing pile of evidence that the Bureau received intelligence that indicted January 6th was a major threat, that pro-Trump extremists wanted to kill members of Congress. Okay, I don't condone that. I don't think that's not how we're going to get our way. There is a process. There's a process for a reason. And you could say about voter fraud, listen, I've looked into it. They did change voter laws, right? But they did it legally. They used the law. They used election laws, and then they pressured social media. I did a whole story on it called The Red Wave. The additional information reviews NBC News adds to the growing pile of evidence that the Bureau received intelligence that indicted January 6th. I read this. It illustrates that the warnings weren't just coming from average Americans sending information into the FBI tip line, but from at least one trusted source vetted by one trusted source. Not even like an undercover agent. Just one trusted, confidential FBI informant. The same people who have 80 agents looking and approving social media posts of what you can say and what you can't say. That's a police state. The same people have a confidential informant. The FBI confidential human source, as opposed to a dog. The FBI confidential human source who sent that information spoke to NBC News after January 6th committee released a summary of its investigation, which avoided criticizing law enforcement failures in the lead up to the attack because, as NBC News first reported last month, committee leaders decided to keep the focus on Trump. The full report is set to be released Wednesday. The confidential human source. I can't even get through the confidential human source. The confidential pony. There was a pony there. It's an undercover pony. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you who it is. But I can tell you it's a confidential pony source. My first response was like, what the F? ? The confidential human source said in reaction to NBC News, reporting this week on the committee's decision to avoid criticizing law enforcement in their summary. The Bureau saw this coming, they said, from one... Do you not have... Okay, I'm going to take a break there and just rip this apart for a second. Do you know how many confidential informants the FBI has? Do you know how many tips and complaints the FBI gets on a daily basis that they have to analyze and do a risk analysis on? Hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands of tips they get on a daily basis. NBC happened to find an individual who happens to support something they wish to report on, but there's only one of them. There's not 20 of them. There's not 30 of them saying, hey, we all looked at this separately and we all saw this was going on. Do you think that the federal government is not looking at these extremist groups? Do you think they're not looking at the Oath Keepers and all of these other organizations that they consider extremists? Do you think they're not watching them? You think they don't have informants with them? You think they don't have undercover agents there like they used to do? Like they still do today? Of course they do. Of course they do. And they have it with the radical left too. With Antifa, they're in there. They're watching it. They know what's going on. But one of them, who is confidential, won't give his name. One. They found one. Oh, I warned him. Yeah, I warned him. Wait a minute. So, I mean, and first of all, informants are flipped. You find a guy, you crack him for selling heroin, and then you say, you know what, we're not going to put you in jail. We want you to stay where you're at. We want you to give us information. That's how you get an informant. So informants are typically not of good character. But this one is, who's confidential. A separate source familiar with January 6th committee's work confirmed that the December 19th, 2020 tip to the FBI was in the possession of the committee and was among many examples of intelligence the FBI received ahead of January 6th attack. That source expected that the December 2019 tip would be excluded from January 6th committee full report. A committee spokesperson did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Oh, Jesus, this is a long article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But, I mean, we get the frickin' gist here. This is... All right, let me read some comments. Can we imagine how this upcoming January 6th is going to be blown out of proportion? Flags will be at half-mast. Oh, yeah, it's going to be insane. It's going to be... They're going to give a speech. They're going to have a memorial for, you know, all the people that didn't die. Oh, my God, nobody died except for Ashli Babbitt. That's it. That's it. And then I think there was a Capitol police officer who had a heart attack or something that they originally reported was beat to death with a fire extinguisher. Lies. All lies. Now, I'm going to say this again, and I say it every show, anytime January 6th comes up. Man, a lot of those guys were there, and they were doing what they should not have been doing. Man, a lot of it was completely unacceptable and out of control on one side. Then you have another side that they're just letting in. I mean, that obviously happened, but also breaking windows and breaking into the building happened too. From my opinion, because I think they were breaking the windows and trying to get in. And then once they got everybody out of the building, they were like, just freaking let them in. All the Congress people are gone. All the important people have been evacuated. Just let them in. Just stop it. Stop it. They're destroying the place. Just let them in. And I think that that's what happened. But did some people get wrapped up into that? Yeah, 100%. You know, you show up later after it and you're walking in and then they're like, hey, they're letting us in. You go, oh, shit, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to go in the Capitol. And the next thing you know, you're freaking in some off-site CIA location getting your freaking nuts zapped, talking about how this one informant helped you plan an insurrection. Like, Jesus. So, I mean, there's two sides to that. But, you know, the government, they overreact. That's what they do. And plus, this helps them politically. So they're going to continue to. What happened to April? Ingrid, I'm pretty sure she heard me say her name and then ran away. Patrick, can't be an insurrection without firearms. Well, that's a great point. You know, it can be, but if you're talking about what the left and government considers far-right extremists, from what their perception of a far-right extremist is that they have if somebody has an AR-15 and 1,000 rounds, they have a stockpile of ammunition, right? So if these people were going there to overthrow the government, why didn't they all take their guns? I mean, that's a great question. I do not think that that's why they went there. I think mob rule took over, and then they started breaking windows because they were pissed about the election. I don't think Donald Trump helped this situation. I think he inadvertently got people's emotions riled up, but that is not criminal. You know, politicians get people's emotions riled up all the time. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what politicians do. They rally them. I mean, look at Maxine Waters. If you see a MAGA reporter, you get in their face. You kick them out of that restaurant. You go after them with everything you have. Like, man, that's way worse than what Donald Trump did. It just doesn't make any sense. Patrick, Republicans need to start lying and slinging mud just like the communists on the left do. What's good for the goose, right? Then give them some of their own medicine. You know, I think what conservatives need to do is, number one, where the number one place that conservatives fail is activism, right? You know, the left will take to the streets, picket with signs, attack people like me on social media in groups of thousands of people, report all my stuff to have me taken down. Like, that's activism. The right doesn't do that ever. The right doesn't really go protest, right? I mean, they had a rally January 6th, but they're not as active. Like, you have all of these teenage girls, like the teenage girls who threw frickin' soup on the painting, tomato soup on the painting, then superglued their hands to the wall because of climate change. You know, like activism. We don't do any activism. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So they want to shut them up. So they give them what they want. So I'm not saying that we should go out there and destroy paintings, but I am saying that we do need to take an active role in politics. And people don't take an active role in politics. What people do is they sit back, they watch a little clip, and they complain. They don't take an active role. They don't write their congressperson, which is what all of you need to do. You need to find out who your congressperson is, and you need to write them with your concerns, especially like something like the Twitter situation, right? With the Twitter situation, oh God, I'm having microphone problems again. You know, if you write your congressperson, something's going to happen from that. Something's going to come from that. If we imagine that everybody that was upset about Twitter sat down and wrote an email to their congressperson, and now all of Congress is getting millions of emails about this one thing that they need to handle, they start thinking, I go, shit, I need to get reelected. This is what my people want. My constituents want this. But that's what the left does. They're that involved. We're not involved. We're working people. We go to work, we come home. We go to work, we forfeit all of our taxes over to the left who's out there freaking protesting, collecting checks. That's, I mean, that's why we're losing, among other things. But that's why. So do they need to sling mud? I mean, the mud is there. I mean, Democrats are just a train wreck. People know it. But even the people that know it and hate it, a lot of them don't even go out and vote. But I mean, you don't even have to go out and vote anymore. Just mail me a ballot and mail me, my wife, and 10 other people a ballot that live in my house, and I'll just send them all in without verification. Wayne, how about the Capitol Hill cop who murdered Ashli Babbitt? I swore I would never analyze this, but I'm going to tell you. The door was barricaded. She broke the glass to try to get in. Is it murder? You know, you guys might not know this, but I am a former police officer. I was a police officer for a few years. Okay. I've been in situations as a police officer. I've been shot at as a police officer. I've drawn my weapon. I've tased people. I've fought people. I've done it all. Okay. This Capitol Police officer is protecting members of Congress. There is an angry mob breaking windows trying to come in. They are standing there with their guns drawn. Now, she broke the window to get in. Does that mean that deadly force is justified? Number one, okay, so deadly force is that force which a person uses with the purpose of causing death or serious bodily harm, or which a reasonable and prudent person would consider likely to create a substantial risk of causing death and serious bodily harm. Still have it memorized from the Marine Corps in 2005. That's one, right? So, now, was she a direct threat to anybody? Do I think, I hate Monday morning quarterbacking police officers because there's a whole totality of circumstances that you're not aware of when you look at a little video clip. But from what I'm seeing, it's a very unique situation, man. You got thousands of people breaking into this freaking building where National Congress is there, and your job is to protect those people. So the first person that comes in, you put a bullet in them, the rest of them start thinking that they shouldn't come through, right? That's one side of it. That's one. I'm not saying that that's the way that it is, but that's one mindset. I got 10,000 people coming in, and the first person comes in, I'm going to put a bullet in them, and I'm going to stop them from coming in. And then the rest of you are going to think differently, and you're not going to do what that person just did because now they're dead, right? That's one thought process. The other thought process is, there's about 5 of them there. She comes through. You could yoke her up and cuff her, right? You could yoke her up and cuff her. But I don't know what the the rules of engagement were, the ROEs. It could have been, they could have came on the radio and said, listen, we're under freaking attack. Somebody comes through, put a bullet in them. That could have been, they could have come out on the radio and told that cop that. None of that's been released. We don't know. Now, if it were me, I don't know, because I don't know the totality of the circumstances, right? Would I shoot her? From the little clip I'm seeing, no. There was enough officers around to where they could have maintained security on that entrance and apprehended her. I would have yoked her up, threw her down, threw cuffs on her, and had the other guys watch the entryway. That would have been my first. Obviously, your first attempt is non-lethal. Your first attempt is non-lethal. It's always non-lethal. But was the circumstance of extreme enough of people rushing the building trying to, they're chanting they're going to hang Mike Pence. That's real. That's real. Like I told you guys, January 6th, man, some of them were doing horrible things. Some of them were doing innocent things. When you watch Fox News, you see all the people doing innocent things. When you watch CNN, you see all the people doing the horrible things. But they were both there, right? Now put yourself in that position. You're there. Your job is to protect these people. You are not political. You don't care. Secret Service, Capitol Police, they don't care about Democrat, Republican. They don't give a shit. Their job is to protect those people. So when you have a mob of people breaking through the door and you put one down, the rest ain't coming. or they're going to think long and hard about it, right? So, but if it were me, like I said, from that little clip, I may think differently if I knew the totality of the circumstance. All right, guys. I think that's enough. I've reached 1 hour. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Okay, very important to share the videos. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been the Ryan F. Samuels Show, or the Ryan Samuels Show. Make sure you visit ryanfsamuels.com. Download the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Audible. Check us out on YouTube, Rumble, and make sure you subscribe on Facebook. It's 99 cents a month. I send videos. I post behind-the-scenes stuff for subscribers. It's good. And all the money goes directly back into this so we can promote the message and get back to our individual rights and individual freedom. Thank you all very much. Have a blessed night.